What's going on, everybody? This is Al from PlaybookGamer.com, and today we're going to break down every air raid playbook in college football 25. Now, there are 21 playbooks that are labeled air raid. Now, some of these are more air raid than others. I'm going to break down every single one, and at the end, I'm going to summarize them all and group them by different styles and schemes. The first playbook we're going to look at is the Air Raid Alternate Playbook. Think classic Air Raid. This is Mike Leach. This is as close as you'll ever get to the original Air Raid. It's also the smallest playbook of all the 21 books that we're going to cover. It's nothing but a shotgun. Personnel, it's 11, 10, and 20. I was a little disappointed by this. Mostly he ran a ton of 10 and 20 back then, but there's just a ton of 11 personnel because that's what everybody runs these days. And some of the concepts you need to look for are smash, mesh, some stick, inside zone, and verge. Those are pretty popular in this playbook. But what's really great about this one is if you look at the plays below, how the formations and the plays are named. Gun Ace Rip. You're not going to find Ace Rip anywhere other than this playbook. And the names of the plays themselves. 618, the 618, that is Y stick. 92, that's mesh. 8, that's Y corner. Really cool. Next up, we have Baylor. Now, I can't tell this is an air raid or a spread option playbook because it's got so many different things beyond just your basic air raid concepts, but it's got 260 or so plays. It's got plenty of option and RPOs. Now, that's actually a good chunk of the entire playbook because 260 plays is actually not a very big playbook. You look at the formations, it's mostly gun. It's got a little bit of pistol and even has a full house formation. In terms of your personnel, it really focuses on 11, 10, and 12. Then some of the concepts you may want to pay attention to or pretty much any of the RPOs, option plays in general, play action, and screens. You notice some of the plays at the bottom. That's just kind of what to expect. Plenty of screens, options, and play action on top of that. Next up, we have Clemson. Now, this is a humongous playbook, over 340 plays. This is the Garrett Riley offense. He is Lincoln Riley's brother. This one has a lot of motion, a lot of play action, and a lot of RPOs, but it also has all your basic air raid stuff built into it. Again, it's a humongous playbook. Formation-wise, it's plenty of shotgun. It's got a little bit of pistol, and it's also got some I formations. Now, when it comes to personnel, 11, 10, and 20 is the main focus there. And some of the concepts you may want to look out for are those RPOs, curl, smash, which is pretty common in most playbooks. Comeback is really popular, and verts as well, but you need to see some of the plays at the bottom here. This is kind of what to expect. A lot of pre-snap motion, but with air raid built into it. Next up, we have Colorado State. This is the largest playbook of all of the playbooks we're going to cover. It's actually this one and UNLV have the largest playbooks in the entire game, but 370 plus plays. That's a lot. Now, it's got plenty of motion, plenty of play action, and plenty of screens to go in with some of that air raid basic stuff. When it comes to formations, it's gun. It also has most of the pistol. It's got 3 total pistol sets, and also has plenty of empty formations, but I think it's pretty cool. Now, personnel-wise, it's 11, 10, or 21 are the main focus there. And some of the concepts you want to maybe pay attention to is smash, inside zone, curl, and choice. And all 4 of those have at least 19 or more plays, which is a whole lot. Now, look at the plays below. This is kind of what to expect. More air raid, but with a lot of other things built in, but just a lot of pre-snap motion built in as well. Again, it's a humongous playbook. Next up, we have Georgia Southern. This is one of the smaller playbooks we're going to look at. It only has 250 or so plays, but it's got plenty of motion. And most of that is jet sweeps if you're a jet sweep guy. Now, when it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it's got actually 1 weak formation and 1 power I formation. You look at that personnel, 11, which is always the most popular personnel grouping. 12 and 10 are the main focus there. And if you look at some of their main concepts, smash, again, is very popular. Inside zone, shot, plenty of vertical stuff over the top between it and the verticals themselves. And RPO alert is actually pretty popular in this playbook. And you look at some of the plays below, it's your standard air raid, but with a little jet sweep action built into it. Next up, we have Louisiana Tech. This is another humongous playbook, 320 plus plays. Now, this one has a lot of twins and trip sets. Think a lot of receivers on one side or the other. When it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it also has 3 pistol formations as well with, I think, 40 plus plays in it. It also has, I think, 1 I formation. When it comes to personnel groupings, 11, 10, or 12 are the main ones there. Then when it comes to the concepts, plenty of screens, RPO alert is very popular. Choice is a big one, and then curl is as well. So you notice that some of the plays below, shock H option is an option or a choice concept, and you got inside zone, and you got plenty of screens built in. But again, it's a humongous playbook. It's got a little bit of everything. Now let's look at Marshall. This is one of the smaller playbooks, about 260 or so plays. It's got plenty of RPOs and play action. If you put those numbers together, that's actually close to like 20% of the entire playbook. When it comes to formations, of course, it's got plenty of shotgun. I think it's got 1 or 2 pistol formations. It even has some single back and wildcat. Now, when it comes to personnel, it's mostly 11 and 10, but it's kind of like one formation of like 5 wide receivers, or 0-1, where 4 wide receivers and a tight end, and like 1-12 formation. So if you need a little variety with your personnel groupings, I would definitely look at Marshall. Now, when it comes to concepts, RPO alert is another big one. Read option is a big one as well. Shot plays going over the top, and then some inside zone. Now, you look at some of the plays below here, it's got some option built in, but plenty of play action, and again, a lot of trips and things of that nature. But either way, really cool playbook for as small as it is. Next up, we have Miami of Florida. Now, this is, I can't tell if it's an air raid or a spread playbook because it didn't have a ton of classic air raid concepts. Not a lot of mesh, not a lot of stick, not a lot of wide corner. Now, it's only got 260 plays, but it's got plenty of play action, and it's got plenty of screens if you like that combination. Now, when it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it's got a little bit of pistol. Now, when it comes to personnel, 11, 10, and 12. Now, when it comes to concepts, look at power. It actually has just as much power as it does inside zone, which is very rare in this game. It's got plenty of jet sweep. It also goes over the top really well with plenty of verticals. And again, it's really big on the screens. You see some of the plays below. Verticals, read option, more screens on top of that. Next up, Middle Tennessee. This is another smaller playbook, 250 or so plays, but it's got plenty of motion, plenty of RPOs, plenty of play action. When it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun. It's got a little bit of single back, and I think it's got 1 pistol formation. Personnel, like with most of these, 11 personnel is the biggest one, but it's got actually a little bit more 12 than some of the other ones, and it's got a couple of 10 personnel formations. Now, when it comes to concepts, RPOs is a big deal, play action is a big deal, but smash, shot, plenty of mesh. Mesh, I'm a big stickler for. If you're going to run an air raid offense, it's got plenty of it. And PA boot is actually very popular in this particular playbook. But again, play action, there's 45 of them in here. But you look at some of the plays below, you got stick, stick nod, motion wise screen. Again, all that motion, but with air raid still built into it. Next up, NC State. This is a really odd one. I can't tell if it's air raid or spread option. You talk about option, it's got plenty of it. 270 plus plays with plenty of option, 31 plays to be exact. When it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but I think it's got 1 wildcat formation. Personnel is really weird. It's got 11 personnel. It's got quite a bit of 21, a lot of 2-back sets with a tight end built in. It also has some 13 as well. Now, when it comes to concepts, triple. I think it's got like 9 triple plays, plenty of read option. It's really big on curl and on comeback. So if you like that combination, this is definitely a good playbook for you. But you see some of the plays below, you got RPOs, you got screens, and you got plenty of that triple option built into it. Next up, we have North Texas. This is either air raid or spread option. It's very similar to the NC State playbook we just looked at, but not as much. Now, it's got about 260 or so plays, but it's got plenty of option, 22 of them, and it's got plenty of RPOs, which is a good chunk for 260 plays, about 20% of the entire playbook. When it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it's got a little bit of pistol, and it actually has quite a bit of empty formations, which I think sets it apart. Now, when it comes to personnel, it's strictly 11 and 20. So if you're a 10 personnel guy or 12, this playbook is not for you. But when it comes to concepts, counters, GT to be exact. So think GT counter you see at the bottom left. That's when you're pulling a guard and a tackle. Plenty of that. You're going to see some of this in the USC playbook here a little bit. When it comes to, it also has RPOs built into it and options. So just a weird combination of concepts for it being a so-called air raid playbook. Next up, we have Oklahoma. This is air raid plus veer and shoot / spread option. It's got a ton of different things. It's got about 300 or so plays, tons of option, and tons of RPOs. Look at that number for the RPOs, 48. Ridiculous amount. Now, when it comes to formations, it's all shotgun. However, like at least a third of it is the wide formations. That's the veer and shoot stuff. Now, when it comes to personnel, it's also very picky. 11 personnel and just 10. That's it. It's very stickler for that. Now, when it comes to concepts, plenty of RPO alert, plenty of read option, a lot of choice. It should have a lot of choice because, again, we got all that veer and shoot formation stuff built into it, and it's really big on curl. But you notice some of the plays below. It's still got your basic air raid concepts like Y, sail, and mesh, but they just do it from different ways. But either way, a weird combination of things to make up a pretty cool playbook. Next up, we have Purdue. This is one of the other more, I guess, classic air raid playbooks, but it's got motion built into it. So think the classic air raid alternate playbook, but with a little more window dressing. Now, this is the Graham Harrell offense. If you might know who that is, he was the quarterback for Mike Leach, I think back in 2009 when they had that incredible season. Well, he was the offense coordinator at Purdue. I think he's fired now. I think they've moved on, got a new coach and everything. But smaller playbook. There's only 240 or so plays. It's all shotgun if that's your thing. Now, when it comes to personnel, 11, 10, 20, and it even has, I think, 101 formation. That's like an empty formation with a tight end and 4 wide receivers. Now, when it comes to concepts, stick, mesh, plenty of shallow, smash, and verts. That is like the base of the air raid scheme in general. Now, look at some of the plays below. There's drive. You got shallow cross, 617. That's Ohio with a little bit of like a drive on the other side of it. Either way, classic air raid, but if you need some window dressing, it's got some of that built into it. Next up, we have San Jose State. This is air raid plus veer and shoot, kind of like the Oklahoma playbook we just looked at. It's a humongous playbook, 320 plus plays, formations, gun, pistol, single back, and strong. A weird combination of all that, but it is veer and shoot, so expect some of those wide formations in there. Personnel groupings, 11, 10, and 12. I think it has more 12 personnel than just about any other playbook we've looked at. Now, when it comes to concepts, inside zone, which is pretty popular for most of these playbooks, but RPO alert's a big one. Stick, plenty of choice, again, because it's got some of those wide formations built in, and smash is very popular as well. So you look at some of the plays below, deep choice. That is, look over the formation here, gun wide trips. Deep choice, fake bubble slant, halfback swing. Expect plenty of that along with your basic air raid concepts. Next up, we have TCU. This is another huge playbook, 340 plus plays. This is Sonny Dykes' offense. TCU, they went to the national title game, a couple of years ago. They built it all off the air raid, more or less, but he does a little bit different. Plenty of play action, 47 play action plays. That's a lot for an air raid playbook. RPOs, there's about 36 of them. So if you like that combination of the two, just plenty of RPO, play action, great playbook. When it comes to formations, it's mostly gun, but it also has 3 pistol sets. It is right up there with a couple of other ones we'll look at a little bit later. I formation, I think it's got 1 formation from it. Personnel groupings, it's got a little bit of everything, 11, 10, 12. It even has a true 5 wide set. And when it comes to concepts, RPO alert is another big one. PA boot, again, goes back to that play action, curl, and comeback. So if you like that combination of concepts and you look at some of the plays below, inside zone, PAY cross, RPO read Y flat. That's kind of what to expect with this playbook. Next up, Texas Tech. Think air raid plus the spread. It's got classic air raid, but it's got more modern stuff kind of built into it. But I think it's pretty close to a classic air raid in a sense. But again, it's got a lot of modern things. 280 plus plays, a ton of motion, and a ton of RPOs. More than enough. That's actually a good chunk for how small of a playbook it is. Now, when it comes to formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it's got a little bit of pistol built in. Personnel, it is interesting. It's mostly 11 personnel, but you got 1 set of 12, 1 of 10, and then 1 of an empty, which has got the 4 wide receivers and the tight end. Some of the main concepts you want to look out for is RPO alert and peak, smash, and vert. So over the top RPO, and then you throw in some of your basic air raid stuff like Y stick, RPO peak slant, Y cross, all that just kind of blends together to make up the Texas Tech playbook. USC is up next. This is a humongous playbook, 300 plus plays. This is the Lincoln Riley offense, Garrett Riley's brother. Everybody knows who Lincoln Riley is. Tons of play action, 44 plays there, and a lot of screens, 29 of those. Formations, it's mostly shotgun, but it's got a little single back, and I think it's got 1 pistol formation. Personnel, 11, 10, 20, and 12, so a nice little variety. When it comes to the concepts, counters, we looked at that, I think, with North Texas. Plenty of GT counter, GT this, GT that. A lot of guard tackle pulling. Stick, mesh, curl. Classic air raid concepts. We look at some of the plays below. This is kind of what to expect. Play action, GTZ tunnel. GT counter. PA counter slot cross. Think counter, counter, counter with all that air raid stuff built into it. And that's kind of what you expect with the USC playbook. Next up, we have Washington State. It's another humongous playbook, 320 plus plays. Tons of RPOs and ton of screens, but it's got a little bit of everything else as well. Again, it's a humongous playbook. Formations, all gun, but plenty of trips, quads, and empties. If you like to see some really funky formations that are really spread out, but having your receivers and tight ends moved around in really weird places, this is a really good playbook for you. When it comes to personnel, 11, 10, 20, and 12, so a nice variety. Now, when it comes to concepts, RPO, alert, and peak, comeback and verts are very popular in this playbook. So you look at some of the plays below. RPO alert screen, shark halfback wheel. That's a switch concept with a comeback on the other side. Then, of course, you got your classic Y stick built into it. Next up, we have West Virginia, 280 or so plays. This is the Neil Brown offense. He is no longer there. We now know Rich Rodriguez has taken over West Virginia, but Neil Brown, he's an air raid guy. He came from Kentucky, that whole air raid tree. Then you got plenty of motion and RPOs. More than enough, so it's a bit of a modern air raid in a sense. Formations, gun, pistol, wildcat, even has full house and split T if you feel like you need a couple of those formations. Personnel, 11, 10, 12, and 32. Notice those last couple, that's when you get in that full house and split T type stuff. When it comes to concepts, RPO alert is another really big one. Drive, curl, and plenty of wide receiver screens specifically. You notice here at the bottom, you're going to see a ton of this. RPO alert screen, RPO alert screen, RPO alert screen. But notice they're all different. They just got different run blocking built into it, but it's still all wide receiver screens. Next up, we have Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, another big playbook, 320 plus plays, so it's going to have a little bit of everything, but it's got a ton of motion, plenty of RPOs, 42, and a lot of screens, 32. You look at the formations, mostly shotguns, got a little bit of pistol, got some single back, and it has plenty of empty built into that shotgun if you're into the empty formations. Now, when it comes to personnel, 11, 10, and 12, that's about all that it has there. Now, when it comes to concepts, again, RPO alert. It's usually the most popular RPO concept out of all these. Slant is a really big one. I haven't really talked about slant at all up to this point, mainly because stick and slant just kind of go together, but it has a ton of slant in this one. Curl, smash, and verts as well, but you look at some of the plays below, this is a nice little mini series, the Orbit series. You got an alert counter, you got a PA counter on top of that, and you got a basic alert on top of that. So again, it's a humongous playbook. It's got a little bit of everything, but it's a very nice modern way to run the air raid. Last but not least, we have Wisconsin. This is another humongous playbook. It's got plenty of basic runs and a lot of screens. Now, I haven't really talked about basic runs up to this point because most of these playbooks have about the same amount of runs, but this one has 71, an absolute ton. Think a lot of inside handoff, outside, power, counter, draw, you name it, it's in there. Now, when it comes to formations, it's got plenty of shotgun. It's got a little bit of pistol and a little bit of single back. Personnel groupings, as you can tell, it's got a little bit of everything, but expect most of it to be 11 and 10 with like 1 or 2 of 12 and 21 and such. Concepts, inside zone, read option, curl, smash, and screens. There are a lot of all that in there. And you look at some of the plays below. PA jailbreak screen, outside zone, PA split end screen. So basic runs, screens, a little play action on top of that, but then your classic air raid stuff built into it. And here is a nice summary of all the playbooks. I kind of broke them down by style. You look at the top left, air raid. This is classic. If you want to get close to the real thing, the air raid alternate playbook is your go-to, along with Purdue and Wisconsin. If you need something that's not a whole lot of air raid, but it's more spread option, I would look at Baylor, Miami, NC State, and North Texas. Also on the very far right, look at pistol. These have the most amount of pistol in terms of like about 3 sets with about 40 or so plays in each. Colorado State, Louisiana Tech, and TCU. Veer and shoot if you need some of the wide split stuff. Look at Oklahoma and San Jose State. And then everything else I kind of put in the modern category. These are just have a ton of motion, a ton of RPOs, but still has the base air raid offense built into it. Clemson, Georgia Southern, Marshall, Middle Tennessee, Texas Tech, USC, Washington State, West Virginia, and Western Kentucky. All right, I hope this helps. Now, remember, I have a lot of videos on some of these already. Make sure you go check them out, and I'll talk to you later.